In this video, I review Triplock by Chip Theory Games. It's a game set in New London in a steampunk era. Even though this is a relatively small footprint game, they have gone out of their way to add a lot of story content to this game, where all of your characters have story mats and backstories and how they got to be where they are. And then each one has their own unique ability, which really adds to the replayability of the game. Additionally, in solo mode, they have created solo games with the box set coming with the station, and it comes with 4 rooms. So there's 4 solo missions to come through. And then with each solo mission, there's also a difficulty level. There's a story to it and then a difficulty. So once again, even if you've played through all 4 rooms, you can then come back and challenge yourself and do it on challenge mode. So that's always very useful. As far as the components for this game go, everything is pristine. They went top notch on everything. The cards themselves are not playing cards, not paper cardboard cards. They are actually PVC plastic cards, which means you have little to no chance whatsoever at all, not going to happen, damage these cards. They've even had fun videos, where they've played in the water to just show just how ridiculously durable this stuff is. The only problem with this type of material and that PVC material is for all of the cards, all of these extra cards, all these rule cards that they give you, but also within for the room cards and the character cards and everything like that, and these larger character sheets and everything. Everything is the same PVC material, so nothing's getting damaged. The problem with these is they can, see here, you can even just see while I'm moving around, they can tend to be kind of slippery. I've multiple times gone and went to take these out of the box, and when I'm doing so, they've slipped like this and go flying all over the place. So that can be a little annoying, but the quality for me more than outweighs those slight hiccups every once in a while. Additionally, because this quality is so great, I find myself not having to do anything to this game. I take pride in all my games, and I do whatever I can to help them last as long as they can. So I will sleeve my cards, my tokens when I can. I'll put them in little coin chip cases. You don't have to do anything like that with these. This game is good to go from the box. It's got a great packaging to hold all your stuff, so everything sits really well. There is great art detail everywhere, including under this tray. There's some art written under there. Everything is top notch. The dice, it comes with 3 really great quality dice, which I have done the water test on, where you take some very heavily salted water, which increases the buoyancy of everything, and you put the die in there, and you just keep bumping the die around. And if one side is slightly heavier, it'll cause that to be on the bottom by far more frequently in the water test, so you can test the randomization of their dice, and theirs comes up great. So even the dice are super high quality. They give you 2 glass beads for markers. There's skill beads, one for you and one for your opponent. I kind of wish they gave you 4, though, because technically you don't have to use a character when you play head-to-head. So what you do is you'll pick your character and you'll place him next to your board, and then have your key here for your character, and you will set your points and you'll move it along as you're going through your points. Well, if you're not using characters in this playthrough, then not only will you need your token to do your skills, but you'll need something to mark where you are in the gameplay, how many points you currently have. I guess to get around it, what I would probably do is maybe use the Triplock symbol, see right here, and move it up that way. But just that extra, which has got to be probably the cheapest component in this whole thing, an extra 2 of these would have helped with that immensely. Their rules are pretty basic for the game, so the rules aren't that, detailed or whatever. They don't really need to be. So some people have kind of complained a little about them. I didn't have a problem with the rules. It's a pretty straightforward game. When you break the game down, it is basically a memory game with kind of one of those cup and balls. You're moving around. It's like, where's the ball? It's basically that kind of game is what you're dealing with in its most simplistic manner. And for me, that's great. There's within this kind of story-driven game, in this scenario, you don't really see this anywhere else, and they did a really good job bringing that to life. Additionally, I found this game to be a fabulous game for families to play with your children, because one of the biggest helps and one of the biggest things you can do to help improve your learning curve, your work, all that, your kids, learning curves and how good they will do, is your memory. The better your memory you have, the better you'll do in working in school and in education. And this is a great, fun way to work on your memory, because you're having to remember, because you're creating these stacks of locks, placing them on here, and then you're moving these around, and you're having to remember what everything is, where the orientation of everything is, while things are being shuffled around and moved around. And it can get tricky, but it's just so much fun. And then when you think you have it so right, and you lift the chip and you think it's a spring and it's a pull, and you go nuts. The dice themselves are very custom to this. The sides, they're symbolic dice. I found that once you play just a time or two, you really then start to remember what all this is. And at first glance, you're looking at it and you're like, what the heck does that mean? What possibly what possibly could this be? But then once you've played it just a time or two and you've really looked at it, then it really does make a whole lot of sense. You're saying, okay, I'm peeking, I'm flipping, and then I'm rotating. And it then starts to make a whole lot of sense, and you don't really need your cheat sheet. But there are 2 of them, one for each player, that not only gives you the actions on one side, but then it gives you all the mechanisms to help you remember. So, and that's very useful, because then you can see here, okay, so that's a pull. Let me look, I can see, okay, the other side's the push. All right, well, I need the pusher now. I know that's the guy I need. I just need to figure out a way to flip him. And you have to put all that kind of strategy in. And then when they're doing it, you have your different rounds, you have your different, your skills. You can go for points, you can go for an extra action, you can undo, or you can reset, which resets, your opponent. So if he's going for maybe the points and he's right here, then all of a sudden you play the reset, you've just screwed their 2, skill sets that they have just tried to do. And then also made them lose their next skill turn. So that can be very evil. And like I was saying, how they've given each character their own additional skill. So there's lots of replayability in this. It plays relatively quick. They're relatively short games. So you can get in multiples in there, play, one game after another. And since, all of the orientation of your chips and everything's so random, even if just playing the same room over and over and over again, just as a memory challenge, as a memory game, it all works. It's a lot of fun. There's lots of different diagram cards for when you're playing, so you won't run out there. You really can mess with your opponent. So that's basically Chip Theory as Triplock overview. I love it. Great for families. Great for working on your memory. It's great, one of those great brain games that seems so popular nowadays. Relatively small footprint, relatively small price point, especially for the Chip Theory games, which are traditionally a little more expensive because their component quality is so high. They do the other beauty. These situations they have online now provided free downloads for the other 3 solo scenarios, so you can print and play them. So while you can buy the good quality set from Chip Theory, all you really need is this base, and you are good to go, because you can print and play those other 3, and that also drastically increases that replayability and that extra that they're giving you. In the rules, they do have a 3-way 3-player setup option. There's some problems to it, just within the when you go to the rules, when you're setting them up, you're like, well, if I set these 4 and then do the next random 2, then I know these ones right here are going to be unique, but these 2 over here are going to... There's some problems too. There's some little workout that you would have to do to ensure that's a little more fair, that they don't go through on here for this 3-player setup. By minimum, you need 2 copies of the game, but then you'd have to print your own version of this map to be able to do it like they say here. Each player would need their own set, or you need 3 copies of it. This is not where you're buying the 3-player setup. You're really buying this for the 1-player or the 2-player mode, but it is potentially there. Great game. Highly recommend it. Aggravating as all get out, but one of the better brain games that I have found. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found it informative, and hope it helps you to decide whether or not you choose to pick this one up. Enjoy.